Immediately the stone that the little girl was sitting on, a round, hard stone, and so cold, turned into a nice hot cake, so hot that she jumped up directly. As soon as she saw what it was, she clapped her hands for joy. "Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful cake! Only we haven't got a knife to cut it." The boys felt in all their pockets, but somehow their knives never were there when they were wanted. "Look, you've got one in your hand," said Brownie to the little one, and that minute a bit of stick she held turned into a bread knife, silver with an ivory handle, big enough and sharp enough without being too sharp, for the youngest girl was not allowed to use sharp knives, though she liked cutting things excessively, especially cakes. "That will do. Sit you down and carve the dinner. Fair shares, and don't let anybody eat too much. Now begin, ma'am," said the Brownie, quite politely, as if she had been ever so old. Oh, how proud the little girl was, how bravely she set to work, and cut 5 of the biggest slices you ever saw, and gave them to her brothers and sisters, and was just going to take the 6th slice for herself, when she remembered the Brownie. "I beg your pardon," said she, as politely as he, though she was such a very little girl, and turned round to the wee brown man, but he was nowhere to be seen. The slices of cake in the children's hands remained cake, and uncommonly good it was, and such substantial eating that it did nearly the same as dinner, but the cake itself turned suddenly to a stone again, and the knife into a bit of stick. For there was the gardener, coming clumping along by the bank of the lake, and growling as he went. "Have you got the kangaroo?" shouted the children, determined to be civil if possible. "This place is bewitched, I think," said he. "The kangaroo was fast asleep in the cowshed." "What? How dare you laugh at me?" But they hadn't laughed at all, and they found it no laughing matter, poor children, when Gardner came on the ice and began to scold them and order them about. He was perfectly savage with crossness, for the people at Giles's farm had laughed at him very much, and he did not like to be laughed at. And at the top of the field he had by chance met his mistress, and she had asked him severely how he could think of leaving the children alone. Altogether his conscience pricked him a good deal, and when people's consciences prick them, sometimes they get angry with other people, which is very silly and only makes matters worse. "What have you been doing all this time?" said he. "All this 5 minutes?" said the eldest boy mischievously, for Gardner was only to be away 5 minutes, and he had stayed a full hour. Also, when he fumbled in his pocket for the children's lunch, to stop their tongues perhaps, he found it was not there. They set up a great outcry, for in spite of the cake, they could have eaten a little more. Indeed, the frost had such an effect upon all their appetites that they felt not unlike that celebrated gentleman of whom it is told that he ate a cow and ate a calf, he ate an ox and ate a half, he ate a church, he ate the steeple, he ate the priest and all the people, and said he hadn't had enough then. "We're so hungry, so very hungry. Couldn't you go back again and fetch us some dinner?" cried they entreatingly. "Not I, indeed. You may go back to dinner yourselves. You shall indeed, for I want my dinner too. 2 hours is plenty long enough to stop on the ice." "It isn't 2 hours, it's only 1. "Well, 1 will do better than more. You're all right now, and you might soon tumble in or break your legs on the slide, so come away home." It wasn't kind of Gardner, and I don't wonder the children felt it hard. Indeed, the eldest boy resisted stoutly. "Mother said we might stop all day, and we will stop all day. You may go home if you like." "I won't, and you shall," said Gardner, smacking a whip that he carried in his hand. "Stop till I catch you, and I'll give you this about your beak, my fine gentleman." And he tried to follow, but the little fellow darted across the ice, objecting to be either caught or whipped. It may have been rather naughty, but I am afraid it was great fun, dodging the gardener up and down, he being too timid to go on the slippery ice, and sometimes getting so close that the whip nearly touched the lad. "Bless us, there's the kangaroo again," said he, starting. Just as he had caught the boy and lifted the whip, the creature was seen hop-hopping from bank to bank. "I can't surely be mistaken this time, I must catch it." Which seemed quite easy, for it limped as if it was lame, or as if the frost had bitted its toes, poor beast. Gardner went after it, walking cautiously on the slippery, crackling ice, and never minding whether or not he walked on the slides, though they called out to him that his nailed boots would spoil them. But whether it was that ice which bears a boy will not bear a man, or whether at each lame step of the kangaroo there came a great crack, is more than I can tell. However, just as Gardner reached the middle of the lake, the ice suddenly broke, and in he popped. The kangaroo too, apparently, for it was not seen afterwards. What a hullabaloo the poor man made! Not that he was drowning, the lake was too shallow to drown anybody, but he got terribly wet, and the water was very cold. He soon scrambled out, the boys helping him, and then he hobbled home as fast as he could, not even saying thank you or taking the least notice of them. Indeed, nobody took any notice of them, nobody came to fetch them, and they might have stayed sliding the whole afternoon, only somehow they did not feel quite easy in their minds, and though the hole in the ice closed up immediately, and it seemed as firm as ever, still they did not like to slide upon it again. "I think we had better go home and tell Mother everything," said one of them. "Besides, we ought to see what has become of poor Gardner. He was very wet." "Yes, but oh, how funny he looked!" And they all burst out laughing at the recollection of the figure he cut, scrambling out through the ice with his trousers dripping up to the knees and the water running out of his boots, making a little pool wherever he stepped. "And it freezes so hard that by the time he gets home his clothes will be as stiff as a board. His wife will have to put him to the fire to thaw before he can get out of them." Again the little people burst into shouts of laughter. Although they laughed, they were a little sorry for poor old Gardner, and hoped no great harm had come to him, but that he had got safe home and been dried by his own warm fire. The frosty mist was beginning already to rise, and the sun, though still high up in the sky, looked like a ball of red-hot iron as the 6 children went homeward across the fields, merry enough still, but not quite so merry as they had been a few hours before. "Let's hope Mother won't be vexed with us," said they, "but will let us come back again tomorrow. It wasn't our fault that Gardner tumbled in." As somebody said this, they all heard quite distinctly, "Ha, ha, ha," and "Ho, ho, ho," and a sound of little steps pattering behind. But whatever they thought, nobody ventured to say that it was the fault of the Brownie. End of Adventure the 5th.